It's January 16, 2026. It's time to grow cherimoyas from seeds. This is a cherimoya tree. This is a conglomerate of several varieties on it. So just for you to see what a cherimoya tree looks like, it's pretty lush. It loses its leaves in April, May, and then turns green again. The cherimoya fruit is this. They're very delicious. There is a lot of different varieties, and they all have minor differences in flavors and textures, but in general they're all really good. And today we are going to start preparing the seeds to be grown. I am inside the house now, and what I have in here is a shallow, wide container with water. And here I have the seeds. I do have two different varieties of seeds. The ones on the right are from a seedling tree that I have that it is a very vigorous, fast-growing, really strong, huge leaves, and the fruit is also very large, and it is very good. The ones on the left is from another seedling tree. This one is it's a very, very good tasting fruit. The tree is not as vigorous as the other one, but it grows well. So I decided to give it a try also in another container, and we'll see which of the two turns out to be better at the end. All right, so I have the two of them. My first step is going to be to wash the seeds and remove any impurities that they might have on them, like little pieces of flesh or whatever in there. No, but I had them drying for about 3 or 4 weeks on the window sill, so they are completely dry. But I still want to wash them. All right, let's go through the process. Welcome back. These are my seeds that I left soaking last night, and I put them in a little bowl so it'll be more manageable. I'm just going to leave them here for now. And these are two containers that I picked up last year. They're about 6 inches deep. So I drilled some drainage holes so the water would drain, because if you don't have any drainage holes, you will start growing moss and introducing too much humidity. These are the tops, and the tops seal very well. So yeah, it's a self-contained unit to do my planting. So my first step here is going to be to fill up the containers. Not all the way flush, but about maybe 1.5 inches or so from the top. For that, I have a mix. I have a mix that I usually do. The mix is the same mix that I use for everything, no? Which is 2/4 of compost, 1/4 of mulch, sand, a little bit of horse manure, and all of that. This mix is temporary, although it's mainly organic and the roots are going to be exposed to it. I'm just going to use it to sprout the seeds until the seedlings are about 6 inches or so. Then I'm going to remove the seedlings from here and transfer them to their growing pots. Sand's a good component to have on your mix. Sand drains well, Sand mixed with the organics uh, keeps keeps the soil loose. It will not compact. This organic material will decompose in about 2 years or so, and by then you will have a compacted mass of dirt, pretty much, or worm castings and all that stuff. I don't know if I have any worm eggs in here. More likely I do, since worms are about everywhere. So yeah, we'll see what happens. For now, I'm just going to pick up the large pieces of wood that I had in there, dispose of them, and then I'm going to take my seeds. There's one very important thing on the seed. As you can see, the seed has a tip and the seed has a wider bottom. So the bottom actually is the top. So the seed is going to be planted like this, with the narrower side facing down and the wider side facing up. Okay, so when I plant my seed, it's going to go like this into the ground. That's very important. Why is it important? Cherimoyas, as well as avocados, have a tap root. Tap root is a strong root that comes straight down the ground, and it uses that to anchor itself into the ground, as well as to grow feeding roots from the main tap root. So you have to allow the seeds to grow a tap root, meaning you have to have a container deep enough for the root to grow straight down. And if you don't have a container that's deep enough, the root's gonna hit the bottom. It's gonna start curling up and shooting roots in every direction. And at the end, you will have a tree, but that tree will not have any longevity. So if you are doing this to keep your trees for yourself, or pass them on to other people, or whatever you do for the long term, then do it the right way. I'm not in favor, although a lot of people promote and does this, pre-sprouting the seeds and, wet or moist paper towels, things like that, no, in your windowsill. What it does, yes, the seed is going to be laying down and the seed's going to sprout a root. But that root, since has nothing to aim for, it's not going to go straight down. That root's just going to curl up in there, right? So then you take your seed and you plant it into the ground, and what you have is a root. It's not a tap root that goes straight down. It's a root that goes around like that, no? And sometimes even strangles itself, and it dies eventually. So it's very important to have a tap root. So my next step here is going to be to add some moisture to my pots. I put this in mist because I just want to add a little bit of moisture there. Enough to be able to place my seeds in the soil. I notice that I'm about 2 inches or so, about 3 fingers from the edge of the container. And I'm leaving a little bit of room because once I plant my seeds, I will put a top dressing onto them, so they will not be completely exposed to the elements. Elements being too much humidity, or I don't know, sunlight, bacteria, anything that comes on the air or in the air. Okay, that should be enough water for now. Then I am going to take my seeds. I'm going to orientate it the right direction. We say with the narrow side down. And I'm just gonna place them all over my planting mix. I'm doing them about 1 inch apart from each other. These containers should fit, I don't know, at least a couple of hundred, if not more. And I'm expecting, I don't know, maybe 50% of the seeds to sprout, which is more than what I need. But going back to what I said, at least the seeds are having a chance to grow a taproot. Taproot just naturally, by its own genetics, is going to try to anchor itself. So the root's just going to shoot straight down. And you will see these seeds should sprout in about 45 days or so. And then after that, to enable for them to be able to grow at least a 4 or 5 inch tall stem, it's going to be another 2 months. So I would say more or less in May, we should be able to transplant this into deeper pots. By then, I am going to use a 13-inch deep pot. The pot's 4x4 by 13 inches deep. And those 13 inches is going to be enough to grow my seedling at least for a year, year and a half, when it's ready to have its first graft. I say first graft because my plan is to do more Franken cherimoyas, meaning grafting more than one variety onto my tree. So once I do my first graft, I let it grow a little bit, then I cut the main trunk, generate some side branching, and that side branching is where I do my second or third, or sometimes even fourth variety grafted into the same tree. So yeah, that's the plan. It's a long-term plan for those trees to be in a condition to be planted in the ground with at least 2 varieties or 3 varieties. A good 6 or 7 years are going to go by. But you know, I do this every year, and every year I have 30 or 40 trees ready to be passed on to, you know, friends, people that want the tree, sell some of them to pay for the costs of all the materials, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not gonna bore you putting the seeds in, but I'm just gonna finish it up. Okay, I did plant all my seeds. I have about 100 on each tray, and that's all I need. When you have a lot of seeds, select the biggest seeds. Big seeds make big plants. I mean, that's just bottom line, at least in my experience. So I've done that in a mix of compost, mulch, sand, a little bit of horse manure, not a whole lot, just a little bit, I mean, a handful on each tray. Then for the top dressing, I'm going to use a softer media. In this case, it's going to be a mix of a lot of peat moss with a little bit of perlite. And I'm putting this softer media in it because it retains humidity really well and soft for the seeds to sprout. Strong, the roots are strong. The roots are going to find their way no matter what you use, no? I mean, if it's softer and easier to penetrate, you're going to have a faster root growth. If it's harder, let's say regular dirt from your yard or decomposed granite, stuff like that, it's going to be a little more difficult. You can use sand mixed with peat moss. That's a good media to grow roots. And yeah, so that's my top dressing. I'm just barely covering it with about maybe an inch of soft soil soft mix. Again, peat moss, a little bit of perlite, and it has no purpose other than just provide a softer surface. And it doesn't compact, it will stay soft and will be easier for the growth to start coming up. All right, very next thing is going to be to add some water. I'm going to use a fine mist. And I'm going to really soak these containers. I have a tendency of adding a lot of water, so I don't have to be adding water for at least a month or so. This is like a mini greenhouse. Our weather here in Southern California, we're in wintertime. We're at the middle of January, but we are having, I don't know, 80 degrees of heat. It's unusual. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing my planting, because in the next weeks, all we see is just sunny weather. Maybe not these high temperatures, but not a whole lot of cold. During the night, it cools off a little bit into the 40s maybe, but that'll be okay. So I'm going to grow these seeds outdoors. I'm going to complete my watering. Okay, it looks like I have added enough water. Next thing is going to be to cover it. And that's what I like about these. So this plastic container has draining holes and it has a top. I used to use a container. I used a plastic bag on top and tie it and all that. But this cover is perfect. A quick note, you don't have to be preparing your own mix. You can just go to the local hardware store and get yourself some potting mix or garden soil. It does pretty much the same. So yeah, then after this I'm going to take my 2 containers to a shaded area where they will get maybe 2 hours of sun during the day, and the rest of the day they get a little nice temperature in the high 60s or low 70s, and that will produce a little bit of evaporation. The water is going to evaporate, will come up to the ceiling of the cover, and it will drip back into the soil, keeping a moist environment all the time. It has worked well in the past, so I do expect it to work just as well this time. All right, let's take them to the shade. This is my shaded area. So during the whole morning, you get some shade. Past midday, they get a little bit of sun. And then, yeah, nighttime is here. So this is where I'm placing my 2 containers of seeds. And I'll be checking them at least once a week to see if they need any more water or if it's too hot or too cold. And I will change my strategy according to what the weather is doing. In this area, I do have my early grafts on avocados as well. And I have some seedlings of special citrus, heirloom citrus that runs in the family, hoping for a change this year or this batch and see if they mix the flavor as it was intended to. Anyways, I'll keep you updated on this thing too. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is Frank with Frank and Fruits. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.